Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam she'akol niyeh bidvaro. These days is the commemoration of the passing of the Rebbe 20 years ago. And the Rebbe had a very important life. He had many different stages in his life. In his younger years, he was a student in Berlin. He was a student in Paris. Though he never encouraged his followers to go to the universities, the Rebbe had knowledge of several languages. He spoke French, he spoke German, he spoke Yiddish, of course, he spoke Russian, he read Italian. He was an avid reader in general. The Rebbe was a very intelligent, educated, an erudite person in every respect. But he was also very interested in the personal relationship. Even though he had relationship with many leaders of the Jewish people from the United States, from other countries, from Israel, many prime minister passed by his office. You know, the Rebbe never left. After he became Rebbe, never left really New York City. He only went from Brooklyn to Queens monthly to visit the grave of his late father-in-law, who was the 6th Lubavitcher Rebbe. But he had dealings also with ordinary people, with common people, with everyday people. And of course he had dealings with shluchim. He was interested in many things, and he had a tremendous memory. He would remember things that happened years ago, and when he would encounter that person, he would relate to that event. On one occasion, a shaliach came to see him, and when he asked him, what are you doing? He said he had something to do with jails, and it was before Hanukkah, but of course in jail you can't light a menorah in your cell. So the Rebbe said, why not? Well, it's forbidden. You know, have you ever spoken, he said, to the person in charge? Why don't you do that? He says, well, I'll think about it, but tomorrow is Hanukkah already. Do it right now. And it was night. He had the personal telephone of the person in charge of the jail. He called him up, and he told them what it is, that it's a great mitzvah, it's a tremendous obligation to kindle a menorah, and Jewish prisoners should have that opportunity of doing it. The man, realizing maybe that he called him at night in his home, apparently this was a very important issue, and he immediately issued an order, and people were able to light the menorahs in their jail cells. The Rebbe was interested in somebody who was a jailbird too, not only in extraordinary figures. He related with everybody. The Rebbe was interested also in everyday Jews. Who doesn't remember the mitzvah tanks in a city like New York and other large cities, where a truck converted into a mitzvah emissary would be stationed on Fifth Avenue, and a young man would tell a passerby, are you Jewish? And if the answer was yes, he would invite him inside to put on tefillin. Maybe that person hadn't put on tefillin since his bar mitzvah. Maybe that person had never put on tefillin. Many refused, but on the other hand, many had the experience. It is one thing to study about tefillin. It is another thing to really put them on. In case of women, they were given a kit to light candles before the holidays, before the Shabbos, on Friday afternoon, before the evening. And the Rebbe insisted not only the woman of the house, but all the girls, starting with the age of 3, should light their own candles before the festivities. This was a way of involving people not only intellectually, but also emotionally, by doing things in order to come closer to Judaism. It is difficult to evaluate, even though 20 years have passed since the passing of the Rebbe of Lubavitch, the total impact of his life. Can you imagine there is a Seder in Cusco, in Peru, near Machu Picchu, that is held by Lubavitch for all tourists that are around that place. All over the world, Seders, Sedarim, are held in order to give people an opportunity to do that. Well, as I say, it may be a little too early to evaluate completely the impact, but there is no doubt that he was one of the greatest leaders the Jewish people had during the 20th century.